Level 60 on Conquest of Azeroth has been unlocked for a month now. This means that all the max level activities are available for testing with brand new classes. Today we are going to take a look at the pros and cons of Koa, so by the end of this video you will know whether it's worth buying or is it better to still wait for more polished server. We start off with the classes, as let's face it, this is the main feature of Conquest of Azeroth. They have been taken a long way to find a place they are now, and I have to say that the wait was totally worth it. We not only get completely fresh 21 classes to play with, each one of them has 3 or even 4 specs, which gives us a whooping amount of 69 brand new specializations. The best part is that if you choose a class, then all of those specs it has are completely different. There's no situation where you would feel that you just cast spells with different names on other specs. They have a very unique feeling to them, and I have to admit that so far I haven't found a specialization that I wouldn't particularly like. New spell animations are amazing, and some of the casters have very eye-catching effects. I'm pretty sure that with such amount of playstyles, everybody will find their niche and enjoy discovering Azeroth once more. Especially that some of those specializations provide gameplay of our favorite characters in the Warcraft universe. As for balance, we still have to consider that it's an alpha. Things are being changed on the move, and you can see that devs are listening to player feedback from Discord to adjust things. We still have some busted specs that shine in both PvP or PvE, but on the contrary, I haven't found any class yet that would be completely useless. Or maybe I'm just lucky. After all, I still haven't tried all of them. All in all, numeric values are still subject to change, so I wouldn't mind so much if you like the spec that is underperforming at the moment. There's still hope. Content on the alpha server is being released gradually, and at the moment of releasing the video, we have Zul'Gurub available on all difficulties for raiding and Mythic 0 for dungeons. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, those activities pose absolutely no threat to new classes of Conquest of Azeroth, at least on Heroic Zul'Gurub and all of the Mythic Zeros. There are some oh shit moments here and there, but overall the gameplay is kinda relaxed and doesn't require that much focus. There are of course higher difficulties like Ascended Zul'Gurub and Mythic Plus that will show up soon, but of course numbers are still subject to change, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. All in all, it was a very fun experience initially to zug through old content with new classes, but I guess the true fun will emerge when those new specs will be challenged by some more difficult stuff. On PvE side of things, we also have Manastorms, but to be honest, I don't exactly know what role they want to fulfill in Koa. On Elune, those are amazing source of scrolls and leveling, although when scrap the scrolls part, only the leveling part stays, because if you want gear on max level, there are definitely better places to look for. I think the role of Manastorms should be redone in Conquest of Azeroth, because to get amazing gear from deeper levels, you first need to have that gear to even reach such levels. If there is no real reward, why even bother with it? Currently, I'm a little bit upset with Manastorms as they mostly function as leveling method, thus completely killing the open world aspect of Ascension. And the funny thing is that I cannot blame them. It's the fastest and most efficient way of leveling and gearing along the way. You can also do it solo or with friends if you will. Either way, the gains are massive. I would love if Manastorms would be locked for leveling and would be made exclusive for endgame content. I do realize though that it's a very unique feature of Ascension and they will probably not limit its accessibility, so for the moment we still stay with dead open world. But when we are at the open world, I can also mention that the Colbert quest also lost their purpose. On Elune, it's a steady flow of scrolls with some additional equipment on top of that. Here, on Conquest, it will always be better to spend that time farming mythics or raiding. You still get the caches with gear, and on top of that you can obtain a very concrete piece of gear that you are looking for. Colbert quests were already boring, but at least made us to go out in the open. At this point, I really think that whole endgame loop has to be redesigned for Conquest of Azeroth, as many features that work well for seasonal classless may not be the best choices for fixed classes. In classless, it was all about progressing your character with every activity that you do, whether it would be open world quests, dungeons, raids or PvP. You felt very significant progression, as items were not the only reward you were looking for. Scrolls are far more important initially, and we did get those for everything we have done. In Conquest of Azeroth, scrolls are useless, that is why a lot of those things will lose its progressive incentives. It will be hard to actually balance it out, but I have my hopes up. We can already see some movements in that direction, like for example adding new dungeons to the pool to make things fresh. It's still far away from the release, so the team have plenty of times to polish things. Leveling is very fun in Conquest of Azeroth. Exploring all the new specialization, trying new things out, very exciting. The problem are once again the Manastorms. All the people just sit in those freaking locations, and once again I can't blame them. That's probably the fastest way. The thing is that leveling zones are completely empty. High risk leveling can be already forgotten. There are some occasional BGs going on each level bracket, but the population is waning day after day and it doesn't help at all. RDF is still okay. I even noticed that it may be slightly faster than the Manastorms if you have a good group, and for the moment there are plenty of people on all level brackets as they are trying out new classes constantly. Random Dungeon Finder is also scalable, so it doesn't matter what level you are. You can be grouped with level 50 heroes while being 15 yourself, so if you love tanking or healing, you will have no problem getting instant queues. PvP leveling is fun, especially thanks to new classes, and that people have to learn how to play them. Although, like I mentioned before, the population is going down, so they are rarely seen nowadays. You can still find some during peak times, but overall, even on level 60, population problems started to show up. Of course, probably one of the main reasons being the PvE content releases as well, but being kinda PvP freak myself, it's a shame logging in and then waiting 30 minutes for one arena or a BG that has an even amount of people to even play normally. Nonetheless, I have to admit that I had tons of fun playing PvP initially. Duels in front of Orgrimmar or Stormwind were easy to come by, BG queues popping all the time, and 1v1 arenas where I experienced so many nice duels. I have always wished for 1v1 arenas in WoW. Blizzard did not implement this, as the game is not balanced for 1v1. It can also be seen in Koa, where some of the specs shine more than the others, but having so many of them is actually good, as you will probably find at least one of the specs on each class that thrives in 1v1 combat. To wrap things up, classes are definitely a very strong point, and just trying them out can keep players for pretty long. I also realized that classes took like 99% of the development time, so I have my hopes up when it comes down to the content. We can already see some custom things being added during the alpha, so on the day of the release we will be 100% in a better spot than today. We have already seen amazing things done by Ascension team, like Fell mode or the Manastorms themselves. Those were things we have seen for the very first time in WoW, and I'm sure that with more time to polish things, we'll get amazing product for the release.